This is Dr. Omar Farooq, Assistant Professor of Education, University of Education Atta Campus, with the first lecture from online lecture series for the subject of Educational Assessment, course code EDUC 3143 MA Education. This course provides knowledge and skills required for assessment of students' learning. You will learn different concepts and the various forms and types of educational assessment. This course will provide hands-on experience in the development of valid and reliable test items and application of theory and principles of assessment in real-life situation. Let's have a look on course objectives. After completion of this course, the students will be able to understand different concepts used in educational assessment, differentiate between the various forms of assessment, apply strategies to construct valid and reliable test items, understand the various types of test and assessment procedures used in schools, select or develop an appropriate assessment procedure, and interpret assessment results effectively. In our first lecture, we will discuss three topics. The first one is the concept of test, measurement, assessment, and evaluation. Second, general principles of assessment. And the third one is instructional process and role of assessment. Learning outcomes. After the instruction, the students will be able to define the terms test, measurement, assessment, and evaluation. Understand the relationship between the terms mentioned above. Comprehend the important principles of assessment. Understand the process of instruction. Comprehend the role assessment plays in the instructional process. Now we start our first topic, the concept of test, measurement, assessment, and evaluation. The types of instructional decisions teachers take during their teaching learning process. Teachers take many instructional decisions on the basis of their informal observation. Tests and other procedures are not intended as replacements for teachers' informal observation. Rather, they complement and supplement teachers' informal methods. Measurement and assessment procedures provide more systematic and objective evidence for instructional decisions. Dear students, here is a list of questions that illustrate some of the important instructional decisions teachers make during the course of their instruction. First of all, they want to know that whether their teaching plans for the particular group of students are realistic or not. Here, data collected through aptitude test and past record of achievement form the basis of their decision. For taking decisions regarding the readiness of students for the next learning experience, they use pre-test of needed skills and past record of achievement. And the third, they also have to determine the learning progress of students. They may use teacher-made test, oral questioning, and observation for the purpose. Fourth, what type of learning difficulties are the students facing is an other important question that they focus on. Diagnostic tests, observation, and oral questioning are used for the purpose. The other important decision they take is about the assigning grades to students. They base their decision on teacher-made test and review of portfolios. An effective teacher is much concerned about the question, how effective was my teaching? For that purpose, data collected through achievement test, students' ratings, supervisors' rating, and self-reflection is used. Here, we will try to define the term test. To Lynn, Miller, and Gronlund, test is a systematic procedure for measuring sample of behavior by posing a set of questions in a uniform manner. A test is a means of measuring knowledge, skills, feelings, intelligence, or aptitude of an individual or a group. Test is a particular type of assessment that consists of a set of questions administered during a fixed period of time. Test also answer the question, how well does the individual perform, either in a comparison with others or in comparison with a domain of performance tasks. Regarding the term measurement, Print was of the view that it is concerned with the statement of performance, usually represented in quantitative terms. We can say that it is assigning numbers to the results of a test according to a specific rule. For example, when you give a test to your students and calculate the correct responses and numerically describe as 9 by 10 or 5 by 10, this is called measurement. Measurement is a process of data collection. According to Lynn, Miller, and Gronlund, measurement is a process of obtaining numerical description of the degree to which an individual possesses a particular characteristic. The measurement answers the question, how much? Lynn, Miller, and Gronlund define the term assessment as any of variety of procedures used to obtain information about student performance. It answers the question, how well does the individual perform? Assessment is a general term that includes the full range of procedures used to gain information about student learning and formation of value judgment regarding learning progress. This includes observations, rating of performance or projects, paper and pencil tests, etc. Assessment is much more comprehensive term than measurement and testing. Measurement is limited to quantitative descriptions. Assessment, on the other hand, may include both quantitative and qualitative descriptions. It always includes value judgments. It is a systematic process that plays a significant role in effective teaching. It begins with the identification of learning objectives and ends with the judgment to what extent those objectives have been achieved. The term evaluation is concerned with making judgment about things. When we act as evaluators, we attribute value or worth to behavior, objects, or processes. To be more effective, evaluation requires that judgment be based on appropriate and relevant data. In education, it is inexcusable to make fanciful evaluations even if based on the so-called intuitive reaction of experienced teachers. Effective evaluations will be based upon appropriate data. To Print, evaluation in schools is concerned with two major approaches to making judgments. First is project evaluation and the second is process evaluation. Product evaluation is an evaluation of student performance in a specific learning context, while process evaluation examines the experiences and activities. Evaluation is defined as a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting information to determine the extent the pupil achieved objectives, or it is a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data in order to make decisions. The second topic of our today's lecture is general principles of assessment. One must keep in mind that assessment is an integrated process for determining the nature and extent of students' learning and development. The process will be most effective when some principles are taken into consideration. The first principle of assessment is clearly specify what is to be assessed. It's very important to know, so let me explain it in Urdu as well. Assessment की effectiveness, assessment procedure की technical qualities के अलावा उस बात पर भी उतना ही डिपेंड करती है कि क्या असेस करना है उसको बयान किया जाए। असेसमेंट प्रोसीजर की सिलेक्शन या डेवलपमेंट इस बात की मुतकाजी होती है कि जिन करेक्टरिस्टिक्स को असेस करना है उनको स्पेसिफाई किया जाए। दिस मीन्स व्हेन असेसिंग स्टूडेंट्स लर्निंग clearly specify the intended learning objectives before selecting the assessment procedure. Comprehensive assessment requires a variety of procedures is the second principle of assessment. No single procedure can assess the vast variety of learning outcomes. MCQs and short answer tests are useful for measuring knowledge, understanding, and application, but essay tests or written projects are needed to assess the ability to organize and express ideas. Observational techniques are needed to assess performance skills and various aspects of student behavior. Self-report techniques, on the other hand, are useful for assessing interest and attitude. So, a complete picture of students' achievement and development requires the use of many different assessment procedures. Proper use of assessment procedures requires an awareness of their limitations. Sampling error is one common problem in educational and psychological measurement. An achievement test may not adequately sample a particular domain of instructional content. An observational instrument designed to assess a student's social adjustment may not sample enough behaviors. चांस फैक्टर भी असेसमेंट के रिजल्ट्स को इन्फ्लुएंस करता है, जैसा कि गेसिंग ऑन ऑब्जेक्टिव टेस्ट। ऑब्जेक्टिव टेस्ट में इस बात का ज्यादा चांस होता है कि स्टूडेंट सही ऑप्शन को गेस कर लें। इसके अलावा सब्जेक्टिव स्कोरिंग ऑन एसे टेस्ट की स्कोरिंग पर बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स असरअंदाज होते हैं, जैसा कि एग्जामिनर की पर्सनल ओपिनियन, स्टूडेंट का इमेज, फटीग, टाइम फैक्टर, examiner's moods, etc. Other than this, error in judgment on observational devices, inconsistent responding on self-report. So, no score should be treated as accurate. One should keep in mind that the cruder the instrument, the greater its limitations. Hence, more caution required in its use. Assessment is a means to an end, not end in itself. Assessment is best viewed as a process of obtaining information on which to base educational decisions. Now we head towards our third topic, which is instructional process and role of assessment. The main purpose of classroom instruction is to help students achieve a set of intended learning outcomes, which include changes in intellectual, emotional, and physical spheres. We must be very clear that assessment is an integral part of teaching learning process. As we know that the interdependent nature of teaching and learning is beyond dispute, but we often make a mistake in recognizing the interdependent nature of teaching, learning, and assessment. Let's have a glance on the steps of instructional process. The first, identifying instructional objectives. The second, pre-assessing the learner's needs. Third, providing relevant instruction. Fourth, assessing the intended learning outcomes. Fifth, using the results. Now, we will go through the steps involved in instructional process. The first step of instructional process is to identify the instructional objectives. This is also the first step of assessment process too. This means, first of all, we determine how should students think and act when they complete the learning experience. What knowledge and understanding should the students possess? What skills should they be able to display? What interest and attitude they have developed? What changes in habits of thinking, feeling and doing should have taken place? In short, what specific changes are we striving for? After identifying objectives, it's time to make some assessment of learners' needs in relation to the learning outcomes to be achieved. Do the students possess the abilities and skills needed to proceed with the instruction? Have the students already developed the skills and understanding intended? We assess students at the beginning of instruction to answer the above questions. This information is helpful in planning work for students who lack the prerequisite skills and knowledge, and in modifying our instructional plans. The third step in instructional process is to provide relevant instruction. This happens when teaching method and course content are integrated into planned instructional activities to achieve intended learning outcomes. During this phase, assessment serves two purposes: monitor learning progress of students and diagnose learning difficulties. Assessment procedures used to monitor learning progress during instruction provide continuous feedback to both students and teachers. From the feedback, assessment provide students get reinforcement and identify learning errors and misconceptions, and the teachers can modify instruction and prescribe group and individual work through this feedback. The assessment procedures used to diagnose learning difficulties during instructions are highly specialized procedures concerned with persistent or recurring learning difficulties, searches for the underlying causes of the problem, much more comprehensive and detailed. The aim is to determine the causes of persistent learning problems and to formulate a plan for remedial action. After instruction, the next step of instruction process is to assess the intended learning outcome. Here, assessment determines the extent to which the learning objectives have been achieved. Test and other specially designed assessment procedures are used for the purpose. Dear students, you must know that properly used assessment procedures improve student learning. These procedures provide feedback on learning progress, provide information for overcoming learning difficulties, provide information about the appropriateness of instructional objectives, useful of instructional material, effectiveness of instructional method, assigning grades, reporting parents, and administrative and guidance purpose. Dear students, before ending the lecture, we will have a look on the important points which we have discussed in this lecture. In our first topic, the concept of test, measurement, assessment and evaluation. First of all, we have discussed test. Test is a systematic procedure for measuring a sample of behavior by posing a set of questions in a uniform manner. Test is a particular type of assessment that consists of a set of questions administered during a fixed period of time. Secondly, we discussed measurement. Measurement is a process of data collection. the process of numerical description of the degree to which an individual possesses a particular characteristic. And we also discussed assessment in our first topic. Assessment is defined as any of variety of procedures used to obtain information about student performance. It is a general term that includes the full range of procedures used to gain information about student learning and formation of value judgment regarding student learning progress. This include observations, ratings of performance or projects, paper and pencil tests. And lastly, we discussed evaluation. Evaluation is a process of making judgment about things. Evaluation is a comprehensive process. In our second topic, principles of assessment, we have discussed four important principles of assessment. The first is clearly specify what is to be assessed. Second one, comprehensive assessment requires a variety of procedures. The third one, proper use of assessment procedures requires an awareness of their limitations. And the fourth principle is assessment is a means to an end, not end in itself. In our third topic, instructional process and role of assessment, we have discussed steps involved in instructional process and the role assessment plays at each step of instructional process. Instructional process involves the following steps as identifying instructional objectives, pre-assessing the learner needs, providing relevant instruction, and assessing the intended learning outcomes. Here is some questions for self-assessment.